Kol Memius Le'Artzeinu Ki Yehovah Yeshuotano Uvanu B'Charta Mikol HaVelashon V'Keravtanu L'Shimcha HaGadol Selah Be'emet Le'hodot Lecha U'Yachecha Baruch Adonai Elohim Yisrael B'Yava Elach Neman, word 112. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miyotecha v'hayu advarim ha're'eh asher Elohim mitzavcha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha v'eitecha v'volechtecha v'derech u'v'shachtecha u'kurecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu l'kachafot v'necha Uktatam al mezuzot beitecha u'b'isharecha. Yisharnu lachem and yifta b'vavchem v'sartem b'vadatem. Than your days and the days of your children on the land that the Lord swore to you to give to your ancestors will endure as the days of the heavens over the earth. 113. Asher Oseti, Yatem Eretz Mitzrayim, Li'Otlachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Emet, Yatzav B'Racham. L'dor v'dor hu kayam, U'shmo kayam, Chiso Nachon, U'malchuto v'emunato, Lo ad kayam B'eh, V'orchem v'kayam B'eh. The last four lines on the Hebrew side of 113. Emet shatahu Adonai Eloheinu Velohei Avoteinu Malkeinu Melech Avoteinu Go Aleinu Go El Avoteinu Yosreinu Tzur Yeshua Seinu Oteinu Maksileinu Me'olam Shemecha Ein Elohim Tzuvah Ezrat Avoteinu Atavu Me'olam. About 7 lines above the Micha Mocha, the end of that first paragraph. Together with me. Ram v'nisa gadol v'nora mashvil geyu makbi ashkefolim motzi yashirin ufodanov v'yoser dalim Yeshavam Negla, Tilok Elayam Vakukora, Moshe Nefrolachan Shira, Bisimharabah, Yamrukula, Michamocha, Boeli Madonai, Michamocha, Nezar Bakodesh, Torah Sekino, Sefer, Shira Chadasha, Shekugalim Shechas Matayam, Yachakol Model Lichov Yamru, Adonai Yimlo, Leolam Voed, Sur Yisrael, Kumav Yisrat Yisrael, Uvnei Numecha, Yehuda Yisrael, Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzevaot Shema, Kedosh We're in 115A, now that we have our minute. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei Hakol V'zocher Hasdei Yavod U'mevi Goel L'bnei Bneihem L'man Shemo V'yahava Melech Ozer Fokeinu Moshiach U'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufokei Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Nechayei Mesim Atorah L'Hoshiyah Morid Hatah Mechalkel Chayim B'chesed Mechayei Mesim B'rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'rofei Chomlim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Egunatzah Lishenei Afar Michamocha Gevurat Umidol Melech Meidid Umechayeh No Matzniach Yeshua B'nemonato Achayot Meitim Baruch atah Adonai B'chayei HaMeitim
Amen.
V'kadesh Sheshma Bo'olam Sheshom V'tishmoto B'shmei Morom Hakatuv Hayad Aviyecha V'razeh El Zeh V'yomar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzvaot V'lochal Haaretz Kivotah Ha'az B'kol Rosh Gadol Adir B'chasak Mashvi'im Kol Midnasim L'Masarofim Yom Baruch Yomeiru Baruch Yevod Adonai Minkom Chalakim V'yeneinu tirena malkutecha k'adavar b'shirei uzecha Hayidei David Mashiach Tzidkecha Yimlach Adonai Le'olam No'ayim Tzion L'dor Hallelujah L'dor Vador vador, vador vador, vador vador, nagigan lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, Nagdish, Kedushanecha Nagdish, V'shivcha Eloheinu, Mipinu lo yamush, Le'olam, Le'olam v'ohem. Ledor vador, nagigan lecha, Ledor vador, nagigan lecha, Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh, gadol v'kadosh atah. Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh, gadol v'kadosh atah. Baruch atah Adonai, Oel HaKadosh. Amen. Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, b'matnas elko. Ki even eman, karat solo. Tiferet, Berosho Natata. Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, b'matnas elko. Lefonecha al Sinai, Ushnehu kotavonim, Ori b'yado. Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, b'matnas elko. Uchosu b'hem, v'chosu b'hem, shemirat Shabbat. V'chein kasu, v'torah secha. Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, Yismach Moshe b'matnas, b'matnas elko. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael es HaShabbat, the doors of the Rizolam. Reuven b'nei Yisrael, El Tzivei Olam, Kishay Shem Mimosai, Es HaShamayim v'es ha'oretz, Ubayom Hashvi'i, Ubayom Hashvi'i, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat v'yinochai. Shalom b'Ramav. V'yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. V'yivru amen. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'yam Yisrael, v'yivaru, amen. The completion Kaddish is on page 138. Yitgadav Hashem, May Rabbah, Yom Ladivra, Piratei, V'yimlech Machotei, V'chayei Kon, V'yimlech Kon, V'chayei Beit Yisrael, V'yagavos Makar Divra, May Rabbah, V'yvarach, Yolamo Me'omaya, V'yvarach, V'yishtabach, V'yvarach, V'yamami Nasei, V'yitadav V'yitzilat V'yalash Menikucha, V'yakub, V'yelam Mikabachad, V'shirat, V'yishrat, V'nechamat, V'yam V'yamav V'yimru, Amen. V'asatan V'vatan V'chayisra, V'yishmat V'yimramein, V'yishlam Rabba V'shmaya, V'chayim V'chayisra V'yimramein, V'yaseh V'rama, V'yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'yakol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. So we're going to continue on in chapter 5 of Pirkei Avot, and we are on page 274. Okay. All right. 274. Top of the page. All right. Do I have a volunteer to read? Please.
At 4 periods during the 7-year cycle, pestilence is on the increase. The 4th year, the 7th year, the close of the 7th year, and annually at the close of the Sukkot festival. In the 4th year, because of the poor tithe due in the 3rd year. In the 7th year, because of the poor tithe due in the 6th year. At the close of the 7th year, because of the fruits of that year. At the close of the Sukkot festival annually, because of robbing the poor of their gifts.
Okay, so for the laws of gifts to the poor, see Leviticus. Okay, well anyway, there wasn't a 1040 tax return or anything like that for people to pay taxes. What they did is they gave a tenth, ma'aser, from the word asara, which is 10. So the maaser was given every year. There was a maaser rishon and a maaser sheni. The maaser sheni is the second tithe, in a sense, and it was given for various reasons, but by the 3rd year of the 7-year cycle, remember, 7th year is the Shemitah year, is the sabbatical year, and in the 3rd year and in the 6th year, you were supposed to give Maser Ani, which is a tithe given for the poor. So all the time the people are given food from the fields. That's every year. But in the 3rd year and the 6th year, there's a special dedicated Maser. And if by the end of that year, by April 15th, by the end of year 3 and the end of year 6, there is no Maser, the poor have not gotten enough, then the people have put themselves at risk for pestilence. So at 4 periods during the 7-year cycle, pestilence is on the increase. So the 4th year, because the 3rd year didn't go well for the poor, and then the 7th year, because of the poor tithe, the Maser Ani, that wasn't given. That's what's missing here. The words wasn't given in the 3rd year and wasn't given in the 6th year. Then at the close of the 7th year, because of the fruits of that year, so during the Shemitah year, during that year that the land is supposed to not be harvested, where some of the fruits fall back to the ground and they didn't know about depleting the land of nitrogen or anything like that. They just knew somehow that if every 7th year you allowed the land to rest, you didn't plant, and if things came up spontaneously, people could take that, but you didn't work the land to death, because then you would have very nutrient poor land. But they didn't know that it was an issue of the nutrients. So, but the Shemitah year was every 7th year. If you didn't do the Shemitah correctly, then by the end of that 7th year, there was another vulnerability to pestilence. The word in Hebrew that's used is dever. Any recognition what dever is? What's that?
I said devar, but.
So,
10 plagues.
I'll give you what?
Look for the 10 plagues.
Excellent. Dam Sephardeia Kinim Aro Dever. It's the 5th plague. It's number 5. So, what was pestilence? Pestilence was an animal disease, probably from its description most similar to what we call anthrax today. And so that's not a good thing, because those animals don't do well. They don't survive, so your flock would be gone. So when you say why, and then finally, what's the last one? At the close of the Sukkot festival annually, because the robbing the poor of their gifts. So the harvest, if you remember the story of Ruth last week, I don't think you had time to do that here on,
We did.
We did? We did. Just
Wow.
a little bit.
All that, plus Yisker, all in an hour and a half, and how long?
Synopsis.
What's that?
We did a synopsis of.
Oh, a synopsis, good. Okay, well, it's only 4
Well, we read it
chapters.
on Saturday. didn't
We
Yeah,
did.
yes, we did.
We did.
We read the book and tried to
Excellent.
vote on Saturday.
Excellent, okay. So what was the story? Ruth could go and glean and take from the fields because Boaz wanted her to certainly have enough food. But it wasn't a big difference, because everybody that was poor could get the corners of the field. So it's Leket, Shikha, and Peah, the 3 ways of helping the poor, is that if something was left behind, if things you don't strip every tree and every bush and everything that's growing of every last fruit on it or vegetable on it, you leave something for the poor. And Peah is the edges. Like you hear of Payas people, Hasidim and other ultra-Orthodox people having the corners of their beards not cut. That's called payot. So the corners are called payot. So robbing the poor of their gifts, that would also be a vulnerable time for the community. So we don't like to threaten too heavily, except that we're trying to give people a concept that what you do can hurt the whole community. Not only are your cattle at risk, but the good guy, over the next field that actually did do all these things could still be subject to this punishment. So there's a responsibility, if you keep if you just throw your trash onto the street, you say, this is a little bit of trash. But after a while, the streets will be filthy. You'll be known as a community that doesn't clean up after itself. There's damage done to the community. In the Talmud, there's they lay out the most important laws to be taught to a potential convert. And the first rule that you teach him or her is the leaving of something for the poor. If they can understand that first law, in a sense, then everything else will just follow from there. Any questions about this? Yeah.
I have a question. I know it might not say, but say it's a field of wheat, and a poor person takes whatever they can, a bushel of wheat.
Yeah.
Are they just? Would it practically make the most sense to sell it back to the holder of the field? Being someone who has wheat, I can't process it into something that's edible. It's not something that a poor person should be necessarily expected to do.
That's a good question.
I was thinking in theory, you just sell it back would be the best way to.
Well, but if you get enough poor people together and they could go to the threshing place,
Yeah.
they can, they don't sell it back, but what they do is, they go to wherever the wheat is processed and they say, I'll split this with you in a sense. I'll take some, you take some. And so we both benefit. Yeah,
This isn't a question, it's a comment.
please.
That even before Donald Trump, they were robbing the poor.
Okay,
It's nothing new under the sun.
There we go.
I've been,
James already said this.
Mine was on top.
all right, I have to try to avoid politics because it's not the right place for it, but
Sorry.
I certainly would not shut down somebody who made a comment like that since it's not too far from what I believe, but. Hey,
It was true. Yep.
all right. Andrea, we have you do the Torah service?
Oh, how exciting.
All right. So the Torah service is on page 139.
Oh, I forgot my book. So
Here,
I'll just grab my book.
okay.
Who wants to camera?
Whatever you want.
What?
Why? Oh, I'm sorry. I
I'll see if the other ones.
No problem at all. All right.
139.
Ein kamocha ba'elohim Adonai ein kamasecha malchutecha malchut kolanim v'nimshatecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai Elos Le'amo Yitain Adonai Yivarech Etchamo B'Shalom Avarach Ha'amim Eitiv Tzor Ha'et Zion Tivnei Yerushalayim Yerushalayim Kilecha levavatachnu Melech Eram v'Yisrael Adonai Vayiven so Aharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai V'yofutzu oivecha V'yanusu nisanecha V'yanecha Ki Mitzion Teisei Torah Ki Mitzion Teisei Torah U'dibar Adonai Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah V'yamo Yisrael
source of blessings, may we open our eyes to the radiance around us. May we open our gratitude and our souls with appreciation.
Baby Anarafet, Kadisha Kadisha Yakira, Anayibar to Sefa, Kadisha Yakira, Anayibar to Sefa, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai Giti, Uram Mashmo Yavdav. Lecha Adonai Hagirula, Hagirula, Hatiferes, Yikol HaShamayim U'Haaretz, Yikol HaShamayim U'Haaretz,
Adonai
Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'akasho, Ve'akasho, Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we're a bit off from where we're supposed to be, so give me a minute.
We're leaving Devarim.
Page 810, sentence 66.
years.
Long way to go.
It's just one book, you were just one book off.
Just one book?
Just one book. It only took us 4 or 5 minutes to find it on Chabula, so you can do this fast.
Pressure's on.
Actually, we were wishing you were here because we're
Somebody had to sweep that circuit.
Pretty good skill.
It's good. It's very true.
That's what he's looking for.
All right.
Wow.
All right, we're on page 810, line 66.
Yazer begin Yeshiva Chalachos in Bavinam, Aramein, I call Chali Bod Maheno, still Kabod Torah.
I'm forgetting the names, but Yamod Tzvi. Ben Yehuda Kohen, the,
Baruch Shenatan Torah Yisrael B'Kedusha. So,
I remember Tzvi because it's my son's name.
Temat Beit Yivon Arlechem Chayim Kokan Yom 8/10/66 for Yom HaAsiri on the 10th day. So this is the dedication of the temple, and each of the chieftains of each of the tribes came and brought sacrifices. And it's all enumerated as to what they brought.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
The Yom HaAsiri, Nasi Lubnei Dan, Achiezer ben Amishadai, Karbana, Karas Kesef Acha, Ashloshim Umeya, Mishkala, Mizrak Echad Kesef, Shivim Shekel, V'Shekel HaKodesh, Shnei Kamelayim, Solas, B'Lav Hashem, and Lamincha, Kafacha, Asaso, Prazahav Yakatoras, Parecha, Ad Ben Bakar, Ayelecha, Ad Kevasecha, Veshnasal Li'Allah, Sirizim Echad L'Chatas, Uluzevach Hashlamim, Bakar Shnayim, Elim Chamisha, Tudim Chamisha, Kosim B'nai Shana Chamisha, Zeh, Ben Achiezer, Ben Abishai.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
We're on page 810, line 72.
Yamod Shalom ben Yitzchak Levi the Zakkai.
Baruch hu Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barcha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan banu leTorato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yom Hashtei Asar Yom Nasi Lufnei Asher Hagiel ben Achron Karbano Karas Kesef Acha Ashloshim Umeya Mishkala Mizrak Echad Kesef Shivim Shekel V'Shekel HaKodesh Shnei Kamelayim Solas B'Lav Hashem and Lamincha Kafacha Asasara Zahav Le'Yakitoras.
Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tzidkenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yamod, Stephen, Bivrit. Oh, Yamod Shlishi, sorry. But what's your Hebrew name?
Oh, Abraham,
Abraham.
Ben Word,
Abraham ben Reuven.
Ben Word. Oh, you're Ben Word. That's what I meant.
We're on page 810, line 75.
Yes.
Reuven Minor.
Baruch Adonai Haborah.
Baruch Adonai Olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Parechad ben Bakar, Ayelechad, Kevasechad ben Shnasol Li'Allah, Sirizim Echad Lechatas, Uzevach Hashlamim, Bakar Shnayim Elim Chamisha, Tudim Chamisha, Vasim B'nei Shana Chamisha, Zeh, Karban Pagiel ben Achra.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tzidkenu Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Sorry. I gotta go break the lunch.
We're on page 810, line 78.
Talmud Revi'i. Rachel bat Abraham Basara.
So this is also the Torah reading from Hanukkah. So the trouble is, you have 12 tribes, you have 8 days of Hanukkah. How do you make it work? So each day gets one nasi, and then on the 8th day, you do 9, 10, 11, and 12 too. All right.
Baruch et Adonai Hamtorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamtorah Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamtorah Le'olam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. B'yom 12 yom nasi livnei Naftali Achira ben Einan. Karbano karas kesef achas 30 yom mishkala. Mizrak echad kesef 70 shekel v'shekel hakodesh. Shnehem alayim soles v'lav Hashem en lemincha. Kaf achas 10 zahav malaya kitzav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam natan b'Eloheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Shirach Aloteinu Avram Yisach Yaakov So Rivka Rachel V'Leah Yivarach Yirape Tacholim. It's a prayer for those who are ill in need of healing. Sila Bat Leah.
Ben Yom Ben Nachman.
You've got Gary Cohen, Adonai Fox, Jamie Eisenstadt, Bobby Eisenstadt, Bobby the Mark Levine.
read.
Eileen Cleaver, Barbara Collin, Michael Ben Noah.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Molei Rachem Aleim Lasik L'Apostel V'Yishlach Lehem Meher Refuah Shlem L'Chol Averom V'Yidam B'Tov Shachol Yisroel Refuah L'Nefesh Refuah Haguf V'Nomar Amen.
Yamod Hamishi, Philo Shalom Ben Moshe.
Wait,
Thank you, Baruch Aleah.
We're on
I gotta
page,
get that down.
sorry. We're on page 810, line 81.
Welcome home.
Mhm.
B'chus Adonai Barach. Barach Le'olam Voed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher lekavanu mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu es toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai Nasei HaTorah.
Parecha Ad Ben Bakar, Ayalecha Ad Kevasecha Ad Ben Shnasol Yala, Zirizim Echad Lechatas, Uzevach HaShlomim, Bakar Shnayim Elim Chamisha Tidim Chamisha, Simbirei Shana Chamisha Zeh, Karban Achira B'Einam.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasan lanu Torah sanes v'chai olam tzavchenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Nasei HaTorah.
Amen.
We're on page 811, line 84.
Yamod Shishi, Ruvain Leib Ben Mordechai.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaBarach. Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Zos Chanukasa Mizbeach B'Yamish Yimashach Hasal Nesesei Yisrael Karas Kesef Shnei Masrei Mizrukei Kesef Shnei Masar Kapot Sahav Shnei Masrei Shoshim Umeya Akara Echaz Kesef V'Shivim HaMizrach Echad Kol Kesef HaKelim Alpayim Arba Meyas V'Shekel HaKodesh Kapot Sahav Shnei Masrei Mleos Ketores Es Asar Ketores Asara Asara Kapeshekel HaKodesh Kozahav HaKapos Esrin Umeya.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Yamod Shvi'i, Michael Ben Noah, Baruch Aleah.
We're on page 811, line 87.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu es toraso. Baruch Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Bakar Li'ala Shnei Masar Parim Elim Shelesh Shnei Masar Kvasim B'nei Shana Shnei Masar U'Minchasos Zirizim Shnei Masar Lechatas B'chal B'kar Zevach HaShlamim Esrim Yarba Parim Elim Shishim Atudim Shishim, Vasim B'nei Shana Shishim, Zos Chanukah HaMizbeach Acharei Mashiach Oso, Uvam Moshel O Moed, L'daber Ito, Meishma Sakol L'daber, Love Me Al Chakaporas, Asher Aron Havedus Mibein Shnei Hakruvim, Vaydaber Elav.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
You want to do that, Oh, bye.
Either way, or.
Oh, right.
do it.
No, no.
Oh, all right. Great.
Here's somewhere.
Yep.
146.
Oh, okay. Either
No,
way.
this is the long way. This is the shorter way. So do this one.
All right,
I'll trade it.
trade me, okay. Yitgadol v'yitkadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. Shmei Rabba Medorah, Yom Yomei Omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpapar v'yitroham v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shmei Dekudeshav, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata.
Talmud, Maftir, Judy.
So we go back on page 811 to sentence 87.
What's your Hebrew name?
Yehudis,
Yehudit,
Bat Shalom Behenya.
Bat Sholem Vahenya.
Oh, my. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Bakar li'Allah, 12 parim, elim shnayim, 12 kvasim b'nei shana, 12 u'minchaso sirizim, 12 l'chata as b'chol b'kar, zevach hashlamim, 24 parim, elim shishim atudim, 60 kvasim b'nei shana, 60 Zos Chanukah HaMizbeach Acharei Mashiach Oso, Uvam Moshel O Moed, L'daber Ito Meishma Sakol, L'daber Love Me Al Hakaporas Asher Al Aron Havedus, Mibein Shnei Hakruvim Vaydaber Elav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Yamod Chava. David.
You're all set.
Oh, thank you for coming.
If you're able to, we rise for the lifting and tying up of the Torah.
Talmud,
Amos Veliwa.
Vezot HaTorah Asher Moshe Livnei Bnei Yisrael V'yad Moshe Torah Torah But don't go too far because we're gonna have to return the Torah to the ark. So, Steve, can you come up and do the Ashrei? We're on page 151. And we rise, we're on page 154, we're returning the Torah to the ark. Uvenucha Yomar. God, maybe we should say that Chasigat Running. Eitzvayini Namachasim Ba V'zomkecho Me'yushon L'Racheha Yacheinu L'chol Mitzvotecha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Nashuvah Kadesh Kadesh Yomenu Kadesh Yomenu We actually have handouts for the Devar Torah, so once you get the front of the room, once you get the back of the room, and if there isn't enough, people can share, so I think I made a dozen. All right. So out of the dozens of sources that I look at, in preparation for Devar Torah, I found this one, and it's weekly. It's called Torah Sparks. It comes from the Conservative Yeshiva in Jerusalem. A very good place, and I'd like people to volunteer to read some of the paragraphs of this. And it starts on the front of page 1, but then it continues on the back. So it's like Hebrew in a sense. We're starting on the right-hand page and we go to the left-hand page. So anybody want to volunteer?
You can go around the room.
Okay, guess what that means?
David, you wanna start?
Can we have you read Devar Torah, the Unblessed?
Steve, still here.
Can you hear us?
David,
David, you want to read?
He doesn't know the way, so
Okay.
that's.
Devar Torah, the, or,
In this week's parsha, we learn about, is that my contact correct?
Yeah.
In this week's parsha, we learn about 2 additional powers, responsibilities of the Kohanim priest, one a curse and one a blessing. Verses 5:11 to 31 tell us of the Sota, a woman whose husband suspects her of adultery. She goes before the Kohen, who makes her drink a portion that literally contains the words, "May the Lord make you a curse and an imprecation among the people." But further on, the verses 6:22 to 27, we get Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing. Thus shall you bless the people of Israel. Say to them, "The Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord deal kindly and graciously with you. The Lord bestow his favor upon you and grant you peace." As a Bat Kohan, the daughter of a modern day descendant of Aaron, this juxtaposition is doubly meaningful, as what was a source of pride for my father was a source of, for me, a source of pain.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
from the age of 2, I sat next to my mother in the men's section of our Orthodox minyan, first in Silver Spring, Maryland, and then on the west side of Los Angeles. I followed along with the Shema, tracing with my finger the Hebrew letters my father taught me to read, well before I learned to read English. Drawn to my language and savoring those precious moments with my learned father, my connection with Torah deepened. By the age of 8, I learned to chant Torah trope and read Rashi on the parasha.
Until the age of 9 or so, I continued to sit in the men's section, participating in what was really going on at Shul. But there were 2 moments when I would get a glimpse of what was coming as an Orthodox woman. The first was at, on the other side. Thank you. The first was at age 5, when my male friend, having just learned to read Hebrew, got up and led the congregation in Anim Smira. And the second was the Birkat Kohanim, when my brothers and my father would remove their shoes and go up to bless the congregation.
In the late 80s, early 90s, more modern Orthodoxy, there were no rules for girls or women in public rituals, for girls and women in public rituals, even in our relatively liberal shul. But my parents had made a choice, despite their progressive leanings, to remain part of an Orthodox synagogue so as to have a Shabbat observing community and the kind of social and religious life that comes with it. The world has changed since then, and my own religious path led me eventually toward egalitarianism and conservative Judaism. Over the years, I have served as Shlichat Tzibur, prayer leader, first for Kabbalat Shabbat, then Ma'ariv, and ultimately Shacharit and Musaf. There is still a part of me that is uncomfortable, but in many ways I have healed the wound of Anim Smira.
Steve?
Birkat Kohanim is a different story. I have not been able to let go of the feeling I had when my father and his little brothers went up to bless the congregation and I played with their shoes. It was a club that wouldn't have me as a member. and I don't want to belong. Egalitarian congregations vary in how they handle a Bat Kohen and a Birkat Kohanim. Some say that she is not permitted because as a continuation of the temple ritual, the blessing should be performed only by those who are authentically eligible to do so in the temple. Other congregations treat a Bat Kohen as a Kohen in every way, and others do away with the distinction altogether.
As for me, despite pressure from my students and colleagues to do Birkat Kohanim, I have dug my heels in deeper. As with the Sota, patriarchy is too intertwined with the priesthood. The priesthood is patriarchy. A Bat Kohen's status comes from her father, and her few rights are revoked upon marriage to a non-Kohen. But far more problematically, if a Bat Kohen has sex with someone before marriage, she gets a punishment far worse than the other daughters of Israel. She's burned. With this, rather than the priestly blessings echoing in my head, I cannot wear my Bat Kohen status as an adornment and stand proud before my congregation.
Perhaps this is the unfinished corner in my own spiritual house, where I remember that in many ways the full redemption, the full release from gender oppression has yet to come. My daughter will grow up, God willing, with me as her role model of a fully educated and active Jew, and perhaps she will be able to reclaim the Kohen identity that has thus far remained foreign to me.
For discussion, how should we handle Kohen status? Should the circle of privilege expand or should privilege be ended? How do we balance our contemporary values with the desire for authentic connection with the past?
Thoughts on this?
We do the Birkat Kohen
No,
here?
we don't do
I
that.
don't think so. I didn't think
Yes,
so.
you did it on Shavuot.
We did it on Shavuot here?
Yes.
But we normally,
But we usually do not, that's.
is it done every Shabbat?
No.
Orthodox synagogue?
No.
So in Israel, in Orthodox congregations, it can be done every day. In Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, we don't do it unless it's Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. If it's a holiday, then the Kohanim bless the congregation. So they do the Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yer Hashem panav elecha v'chuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yaseh lecha shalom. They do it word by word with special tunes, usually handed down, from one generation to the next. And the conservative movement, I've seen everything from Birkat Kohanim done during that time done during the repetition. We don't do a repetition. It's done during the Musaf. We don't do a Musaf.
Anymore, we used to do them.
Okay, so, there's, in a sense, we don't have any place for it, but also, it's a skill that's sort of atrophied. We don't have many Kohanim in our congregation, and if we did, we would have to, we would, if we did this, who would do it? We have very few of the Kohanim, and they don't know how to do it. The question is, does a Bat Kohen do the Duchenin? The Yiddish word is Duchen, from the word Kohen, it's in the middle of Duchen, and how would the daughter of a Kohen be given this particular privilege? Yes.
We moved a couple months ago from Silver Spring, Maryland, and in our synagogue there they did on Yom Kippur and Batei Kohanim did.
I'm sorry,
You said-
what, the last line that you said?
Batei Kohanim did it.
Oh.
They were up there.
Okay, so Benot Kohanim did it, okay, which is wonderful, but,
We have people who attend services here, not all of them members. but they do attend and they attend pretty regularly. And they have approached us to get rid of it, to get rid of Kohanim and Levi. And everyone's called to the Torah equally.
So,
So that's another part of our congregation.
all right, so one thing would say this is a complete anachronism. We don't believe that the Kohen blesses the people, but the Kohen is the conduit that blesses the people. So it comes from God, the words come out of the mouth of the Kohen, and God's blessing comes upon you. How do we do this in congregations that have a repetition? The Chazan is that conduit. And so we don't need the cantor, whoever has the, is doing the service, does the Kotavar, it's near Sim Shalom, before, at the back of the repetition. So there are people who feel it's an anachronism, and there are people who are nostalgic for the Birkat Kohanim, that they remember, this particular. I'm very sure. I would guess, because I see that the rabbi of this congregation up to 1948 was Rabbi Forer. I am sure, as an Orthodox rabbi, being the rabbi of both synagogues, that there was Birkat Kohanim in here up to the time he passed. I can't imagine that this is a traditional conservative congregation didn't have Birkat Kohanim. What happened after that, I don't know. But I went to school with his grandson, so knowing how Orthodox that family was, I can't see that he would agree to be the rabbi of a conservative congregation if they didn't do something like Birkat Kohanim. But why? What's the question? What are some of the questions about the daughter of a Kohen and the daughter of a Levi? Well, first of all, it says in the Torah that the daughter of a Kohen is a Kohen family member until she marries. And then once she's outside of the family, the food that the Kohen brings home, whether it's the meat from the temple or the produce that's given, 1/10 of it, that's given to the Kohen if they live outside of the temple, that he can share that with his family until she's married. Once she's married, she's no longer a Bat Kohen. She belongs, in a sense, to the tribe of her husband. So if she comes home to visit her family, she has to be given other food, but she can't be given food from the temple. So her Bat Kohen status ends once she's married, once she leaves that household. So based on that, the people who get called to the Torah as daughter of a Kohen or daughter of a Levi, that status ends once they leave their parents' household. So that's one of the things that I've seen. I've seen congregations that say that the daughter, if there is duchening, if there are people who actually do the job of a Kohen, I mean, why do you get the first aliyah? Why do you get the second aliyah as a Levi? Why do you get the first aliyah as a Kohen? It's because you do your job as a Kohen on Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, whenever there is this duchening, this Birkat Kohanim. If you as a Kohen do that, then the rest of the year you deserve that first aliyah. And if you're the child of a Levi, a son or daughter, you can, if you do the duchening, then you don't do the duchening. You don't get up, but you wash the hands of the Kohen. And so if you're part of that ritual, then you deserve that aliyah as a daughter of a Kohen or daughter of a Levi. But if that congregation doesn't do that, then that congregation should dissolve the Kohen Levi, because it's just royalty. It's just your royalty without deserving it, in a sense. Is that universal? Of course not. It's, they say 3 Jews, 4 opinions, and 3 shuls, 100 opinions. So what can you do? But these are just things to think about. You feel the pain of this writer. Her way of doing it is to become a conservative rabbi. And whether, even though she feels like her congregation would want her to do it, for some reason, it's you can feel her pain, you can feel her story in this, and she doesn't want to evoke that. She doesn't feel that it would heal her to do the duchening, to do the Birkat Kohanim on the holidays. And so she says, I've dug in my heels, and I'm not going to do it. So we have a bunch of different opinions as to how to actually do this. The conservative movement, like I said, has got so many opinions. Bethel did it for a while. We took it, when we had a ritual director from Israel who was very insistent that they do it. Once he left, it stopped happening at Temple Bethel as being a normal conservative congregation. So I'm going to leave it here. We can have more conversation over lunch, but Shabbat Shalom. We're back in our Sidurim to page 182 for the Ein Eloheinu. Ein Eloheinu, Ein Kadoshenu, Ein Zemalkeinu, Ein Koshienu. I don't want the papers back, so don't do that. Mikemoteinu, Mikoshienu, Nogel Eloheinu, Nogel Adonenu, Nogel Malkeinu, Nogel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shetiru, Avoseinu, Page 183. Kakatu b'toratech Adonai yimloch le'olam v'oed. past week have been for Theodore Fryman, Nathan Hirsch, Nathan Kahn, Louis Marks, Leo Halpern, Sophie Meckler, and Etta Goldberg. Zichronam Livracha, may the memory be for a blessing. The mourner's Kaddish is on page 184. Yitgadal, V'yitkadash, Shemei Rabba, V'yalmad, Yivrach, Yerutei, Yanlech, Machutei, V'chaye Kon, V'yomei Kon, V'chaye B'chol Beit Yisrael, V'adalav, V'zman Kariv, Yimru, Amen. Yeshei Rabba,
Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpahar, Yitnawah, Yitnaseh, Yithadar, Yithalel, Yithalah, Shmei Kudishah, V'elah, Mikol, Erlata, V'shirata, Tishbatata, V'netmata, Damiram, V'yamad, V'yiru, Amen. Yeshua, Rabba, V'yishemaya, V'chayim, Aleinu, V'yalkol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, V'ramah, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's wonderful to see everyone here today. Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's streaming at home. We wish you the very best Shabbat possible. And we wish everybody a great weekend as well. We've got some interesting announcements. Firstly, we're in the last 2 weeks of fortifying our building. So if you're here at any time during the next couple of weeks, you may see trucks in the parking lot. I hope you'll see trucks in the parking lot. And people in the building at all hours, possibly day and night. Everything has to be finished by the 30th of June. That's what the grant specifies. And it looks like we're going to be fine. So we're on a more fun kind of side. 1 week from today, Shabbat next week, several members of Sons of Zion approached us and asked if they could sponsor a Kiddush in honor of Pride Month. Pride Month is everywhere now. It's in the newspapers. Every time you open up something, there's something about Pride Month. And when the idea was generated, we jumped on it. So we are really very, very pleased that next Shabbat is going to be sponsored by a group of people, by Saul and Shoshana, even though they won't be here, they will be sponsoring, by Michael and myself, by Maggie and Bonnie, and by Andrea. And I think if somebody who's here would, or streaming would like to become a sponsor of this, there's no reason that you couldn't let us know in the office on Monday, and we'll add you to the list. And there's a flyer outside, up here and downstairs if you want to take a flyer back with you. But it is also the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which really solidified the gay community and was the beginning of what we know now of gay activism and lawsuits and things like that. So if you want to know more about the Stonewall riots, you can look in Wikipedia. There's a huge thing. Or you can just talk to us. Some of us actually remember it. We were living in New York City. It happened in Lower Manhattan, in Greenwich Village. Our annual meeting is going to be on a Thursday, different this year. It was amazing to think with 5 Sundays in June, we ran out of Sundays. Between vacations and Shavuot ending up on a Sunday. And so it's going to be a Thursday evening. We have had it during the week before, but beginning at 6 and ending at 8:15. It won't be, I promise, it's not gonna be any longer than that. We really would like as many people to be present at the annual meeting as possible, so please mark your calendars and try to come. The highlight of the annual meeting, among other things, will be that the last half hour of the meeting will be devoted to the possibility of us, a year from now, in the spring of 2020, taking a trip to Israel, with Rabbi Perlmutter. And needless to say, there are hundreds of ways to see Israel. And one of the things that we hope to find out at the annual meeting is one, where we want to focus if we do make the trip. The first thing is to see whether there's enough interest, and then whether we would want to make the trip, and how we would want to focus the trip. It would be open to members first, and then it would be open to the entire community, so there would be an opportunity for many people to participate. So that would be really nice. The last thing that I wanted to mention is on Shabbat, July 6th, that's 4th of July weekend. Shabbat, July 6th. We, the congregants, are going to be running our own Shabbat service. And I'm looking forward to that as a really creative experience. And I would like to hear from anyone who knows that they will be at that service, that they'll be here on the 6th, and how they might help us and participate. We're looking for everything. So if there's anything that you would like to do to help us out on that, on Shabbat, July 6th, please let me know. You could let Rich know too, but he's not gonna be there. He'll be away. It's not, I'm not doing this to embarrass you, Rich, I'm just, anyway. So I think that is it for now. We can, we want to go to Adon Olam. We want to thank Max for a truly wonderful service, really, on so many levels. Thank you so much. And Adon Olam is on 187.
Adon Olam Asher Olam B'terem Kol Yisir Nivra V'Eis Masa V'Chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'Yacharei Kibot HaKol V'Vato Yimlok Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yiyeh B'Sifara Ve'hu Yiyeh B'Sifara Ve'hu Recha V'Yesh Sheni Ve'ham Shilo Ve'ha'ira Ve'li Meshis Ve'li Safris Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ham Yisra Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ham Yisra Ve'hu Emi Ve'chai Go'ali Ve'tzur Chemli Ve'yetzara Ve'hu Nisi Umanosli Menash Kosi B'yom Ekra B'yom Ekra B'yadam Hakibuki B'ez Yisham B'ya'ira B'imruchi B'yasi Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom
Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat,
Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat.
Shabbat,